OK and the podcast serves as a vessel to bridge the gap between human isolation and connection. We are all going through something. However, what happens when we start sharing our stories? We will be able to connect, heal, and grow. Come with me and my guests on a journey that will uncover their OK and moment. I'm your host, Just Jess. Let's get started. Hey, y'all. Thanks for tuning in to OK and the podcast, where we are trying to bridge the gap between isolation and connection. And this week's episode is super, super special because COVID-19, it's a thing. It's here. It's real. And I have two of my girls on the call right now. And we just really wanted to get their perspective and see what's going on. And you'll understand why their perspective is extremely important. So who would like to introduce themselves first?
My name is Treniese Gill.
Hi, Treniese Gill.
I'm a nurse practitioner. I specialize in family practice.
Hey, I'm Darniesha Griego. Used to be Turner, but Griego. I am a registered nurse on a telemetry unit up in the Bay Area.
Okay. All right. So let's get into the conversation, ladies. What is COVID-19 and how is it impacting y'all as being in your professions?
I can say from my perspective, my company's been really sweet as far as accommodating a lot of us for telehealth, just to put less risk on, the total community, including their employees and the patients that come in and see us. So it's nice, but in the same token, we don't have anybody in our facility that much anymore. So they've, definitely had to think about downsizing as far as employees go, which is never a good thing for people who work there.
Darniesha, have you seen the same results or no?
So when it first came about, there's supposed to be a big surge of people coming in with the coronavirus, right? Mm-hmm. So our hospital was ordering new beds, measuring rooms, because all of our rooms are single patient rooms. We were measuring the rooms, making them double patients to accommodate this surge of patients coming in. We hired a slew of nurses to come in to work the floors to help out with the purge that was coming in. And then it kind of never happened. We had a slew of increase of cases, PUIs, patients under investigation, and positive cases in our hospital, up to double digits, but it kind of tapered off. And so now you have this slew of nurses who were hired for this purge to happen, and it never happened. So they actually got notice recently that they were going to be let go because we currently don't need them. And so our float nurses their shifts are being canceled. If you're not on a steady unit, per diem, you're not getting picked up for a shift. So yeah, it's been happening around here too.
Yeah, I work particularly in the Barstow area, which is high desert, California. And in our area, we've only had 3 confirmed cases that the CDC has been aware of. Mm-hmm. And so, when we have hundreds of testing and people saying that I think I have it, and, you don't have as many people coming in positive, then, people start to say, is this a big deal? And then you have certain areas where we're looking at that has mass hysteria, such as New York, where, there's areas that are devastated by deaths. Because you have people who live on top of each other. Mm-hmm. So I think that a lot of the outcome of this virus is dependent upon proximity of people, how close you are to each other, how much of a chance do you have in transferring your bodily fluids, such as, your saliva and, just in general, if you're coughing in the air, how long you're in the elevator until somebody else gets in, if that makes any sense. As opposed to out here in California, if you're living in the high desert, you could have an acre of land
Yeah.
And you don't have to worry about seeing anybody ever.
That's true.
So I think that the way the virus is going depends upon the closeness and proximity to other people.
What are some best practices that y'all have when interacting with the outside world when it comes to grocery shopping or anything that's essential that you have to pick up? What have you been doing?
Honestly, just sanitizing baskets before you go in. I mean, of course, you're required to wear a mask. You're not even allowed inside of stores without having a mask on at this point.
Right.
I don't even take my kids into the store. Like, they haven't been inside of a grocery store since all of this has happened. The most they've been is outside in the car waiting until one of us get out the store. Just like I said, hand hygiene when you get in and get out. I haven't been over obsessive with like wiping down my groceries when they come into the house. But I've definitely I handle it before the kids handle it, just in case anything happens that I'm always like first line defense to them.
Okay.
That's kind of like my grocery store. And then like our aisles, we have tape. So you can only go down one row and the other row. Like it's like zigzag in the store. So they kind of even mark it off where you're not even having to go in the same row getting groceries in different directions.
It's interesting that you say that because we don't have that here in LA. Like when they let you into the store, you'll practice 6 feet, like social distancing in the line to enter the store. But once you get in, there's no line management inside of the aisles. So it's up to like you as a person to practice 6 feet with another person. And some people don't do it. Some people be all up in your face, trying to get some eggs, trying to get some hand sanitizer, like they are right there. So it's interesting that you guys have the zigzag lines in the bay. Nisi, what are you seeing?
So I don't know if this makes me a snob, but I order my groceries.
That does not make you a snob. That makes you a fan. Tell me more.
Like you guys are talking about walking up and down the aisles, and I'm like, well, my Instacart man just brings me my groceries.
But that's a good call too. So when have you been able to get everything from Instacart?
Yeah, which is pretty nice. And what I like the most about Instacart is it's pretty updated. So it's not like you walk up to the store and you're like, I wonder if they have tissue. Yeah. I wonder if they have soap. Instacart will let you know, they are out of Charmin. They are out of this. So and then what's also nice about Instacart, I don't work for Instacart, by the way. They haven't paid me for this message. So, but I particularly like them. I don't know of any other apps that bring groceries, so I'm sorry for anybody I'm leaving out. It's just the app that I use in general. But pretty much you can pick from 2 or 3 different stores if you'd like in your area. And you could say, I want some dog food from Petco. And since Stater Brothers doesn't have tissue, can we get that from Smart and Final? And then we're going to get this eggs and and the person who they choose will drive in their own vehicle and go to these different grocery stores and then bring you your stuff. So everything you need will come to you.
It's crazy. And because Instacart in LA, it's like, it's hit and miss. Sometimes I'll go on Instacart and I'm like, okay, I know that Costco has tissue. Like, let me just try to order. And like, it won't be here till November of 2020, 8,000. Like, you ain't getting it, right? Yeah. But then sometimes what people will order from and they're like, oh yeah, it took 2 days to get. So I think I just need to create an alert and stock it. Darniesha, you were saying something about Costco in the Bay. What happened with Costco?
Well, no, I was just saying when this all happened, it was like the lines, like it was crazy. Like I get off of work and I'm like, let me just stop by the store on the way home. Cause once I get home, I'm not trying to get out the house. I'm not trying to go back out the house. And like the line was out the front door, down the parking lot to the main street. And I was like, ain't nobody standing in this line. Yep. Like y'all tripping. And then one day I got there 2 hours early for Costco and I got in line. And by the time I got to the front of the store, maybe I'd been like the first 30 customers, like they were out like shortly after me. And I was just like, this is crazy. Like I've been here for 2 hours, but like their employees couldn't get stuff for days. So they have their employees shopping in the back, because I'm like, I get it. Make sure home is okay first. Make sure your employees are okay first before everybody else. But like, yeah, Costco. And then just to see like Walmart price gouge on their stuff, Target did. I saw a case of Smart Water for a 6-pack for $10. I said, who pays $10, $15 for a 6-pack of Smart Water? Like, why? They were selling tissue for $6 for 2 rolls of tissue. I buy a whole case of tissue at Costco for like $15. Like, what the heck? Like, it was crazy.
The Kirkland pack be on point, $19.99.
So best believe I made sure that we got some in our, in our pantry, and then we got some in our shed, because I'm just like, just in case, we ever go, I'm not going through that again. Like, that was crazy.
Yeah. And then I think a great part of the reason why I haven't been out is, I won't say particularly what part of my car, but I do carry a decal on my car that says that I'm a medical employee. And so I'm just scared for like myself to get out of the car and people to think like I'm just carrying diseases. Even though at this point I haven't seen a patient in almost 2 months because I've been doing telehealth.
Yeah.
But I've been hearing of nurses like being followed home. We had an employee who had to have security like make sure that she was okay on her way home because she went to go get groceries, and like people followed her to her work location at our facility. And then we have people who will follow you home because you are a nurse. And like, I don't know if that's the newest attack or if they're just scared, or you shouldn't be out in the public because you're a nurse. You should just be in the hospital to help us once we get sick.
Right. And then go straight home afterwards. I think it's so crazy because I think even when I come home, like my husband, he's been on this, like, I got OC, but he got worse than me. And he's like, make sure you take your clothes off before you get out the car. Like, before you get in the car, change your clothes. Like, make sure you put them straight in the laundry room. Don't even bring them into the house. Put them in a bag. Like, I changed my shoes. He's like, did you wipe the car down? Like, he is, like, super, like, I'm not going to call it germophobic, but he's super, like, precautious about, like, whatever's at work. Make sure you keep that at work and make sure you come home, clean. So I was doing it before, but I wear a change of clothes to work. And as soon as I'm done with my shift, I literally go to the bathroom, strip my clothes, put it in a bag, and then I wear different shoes at the hospital.
Yeah, I think the scariest thing about, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. You're good.
About this virus at this point is that even us as nurses and providers, physicians, we are in the dark. They haven't necessarily told us exactly how it's transpiring from person to person. They haven't given us a correct incubation date. So like they can't say, oh, for only 7 days, you can pass it from one person to another. They don't even know how many variations of this virus there are. So what's been happening is you can take the test and it could come back negative, but they only have a test to test for certain portions of this virus. Yeah, certain strands or certain portions of this virus that can be up the nose, similar to MRSA. If you have MRSA in a wound, if you check for it up the nose, it's not going to be there.
What is that? What is what?
So MRSA is a methicillin-resistant staphylococcus. So it pretty much lives in your skin, or it lives on a surface of your body, kind of like a fungus, where it can kind of get under the skin or in a wound. Okay. So, but this is transpired from person to person by touch. So we know that if we go into a hospital, we're going to be gowned up, we're going to wear gloves. We don't necessarily have to wear a mask, because we're not going to put our face on the patient. But with the coronavirus, they even have different protocols from hospital to hospital, because some people are saying, oh, it might be airborne. Do we need a room where, we have negative pressure because it's airborne? Or is it droplets where if they cough and it's just in the air for a few, they have no idea. They haven't told us. So you have certain hospitals who are just wearing cloth masks, like bring your own from home if you feel like it. And then you have some hospitals that are like strict N95s, but you only get one per week. So if you have the coronavirus yourself, you're sitting there with the same mask for a week. So we have different protocols per hospitals, and everything is so jumbled that I think that we just weren't prepared. None of us were prepared.
We definitely weren't. And I think you agree. It brings a certain level of anxiety. I was telling Jessica earlier, walking into work, I never knew what work was going to happen that day. Like, I never knew what the email was going to say. Because when it first happened, we had a slew of patients that were being ruled out for COVID, right? And so when it first came out, it was an airborne disease. So we were like, well, we don't have enough rooms, we don't have enough rooms to hang out these patients because you need a negative pressure room for an airborne disease.
Okay.
So then they put them in regular rooms. So we had isolation carts and tables outside of the room, but the doctor would decide afterwards, oh, touching me here for 2 or 3 days. I want to test them for COVID now because they don't have the flu and they don't have the respiratory panel came back negative. And like 2 or 3 days later, I've been in this room like 10 times since they've been here. Now you want to test them for COVID? What if they have it? And I've been in this room and I wore no protection in this room the first 2 or 3 days. And so that just level anxiety of just not knowing. And then the hospital not knowing. And then the shortage of PPE. And so, at one point it was just like, you can get a mask, put it in a paper bag, and then you have to keep wearing it for a couple of times and then you get rid of it. Then it was, you get one mask your whole shift and then you can't change it out. And then it was, we separate our COVID patients. So we have 2 wings of our hospital. Mm-hmm. One wing, A wing is just your regular patients, regular positive flow of air in the room. The other wing, we shut down the air conditioning system. And so we tried to make it as negative pressure as possible. And so all of those patients were on one side of the hospital. And so it was like, if you had that patient, you wore a mask until your break. And then after you wore the mask, you got a new mask after your shift. And then you signed your name on the door so everybody knows who's going in and out the rooms. But it was just the level of anxiety, just like not knowing. Then it was, we have to reuse the mask. So when you're done with the mask, put the mask in a linen basket into your shift, and we're going to clean them. And I'm like, clean them? How are you going to clean a paper mask? Like this is, you can't wash it. Like we have to share goggles at one point. You can wash goggles with soap and water with some alcohol, but how do you clean a mask? And so they were saying they want to use UV lighting to clean these masks. And I'm just like, I get it, but you wear a mask for 30 minutes, even the cloth mask, start running, you're talking and you're spitting in the mask. Like I couldn't. So my husband's like, you got asthma. We're not doing that. So his job gave him N95 masks to bring home to me. So when they started recycling these masks, I could just put a brand new one from his job. Cause I was like, I'm not putting my health at risk for this. Like I get you're cleaning as best as you can and you're doing with the supplies that we got. Yeah. But I just can't put my health on line for that, especially when I got a whole family to go home to. So it brings a level of anxiety, just not knowing, and then feeling every day there's something different.
Yeah. One of the things that I didn't like, about the whole, how it panned out is that the CDC had put out a thing saying like, you have to have these certain symptoms. You have to have a fever, you have to have a cough, you have to be short of breath, and you have to have traveled. And then certain facilities were only testing you if you had 3 of the 4 or 4 of the 4, because, our testing was so limited. So they wanted to make sure that they were testing on people who could more than likely potentially be positive. But if you were just short of breath, but you didn't have fever, you haven't traveled, you're not coughing, they wouldn't test you. But then, a couple weeks later, these people were dying. And then they would test them and it's like, yes, this person had the coronavirus. Wow. So but it's scary because it's almost like one of those things, like if have you ever tried to count jelly beans in a vase? And you're like, I wonder how many are in there. And it's like a contest to count how many, whatever pieces of candy, whether it's jelly beans or Skittles or whatever. Yeah. So let's say you have this huge vase and there's maybe like 1,000 jelly beans. One of those jelly beans can kill you. Like, are you going to take a chance and even eat one? You wouldn't, because you don't know if that could be the one that could kill you. But there's people who are willing to take the chance and still go out to grocery stores around masked people, go to the beaches. I still want to shop. I want to get my hair cut. But you don't know if this is the strand that could kill you. Even if you're 100% healthy, I'm healthy. I don't have asthma. I don't have any of these other things. But it could be one thing that takes your immune system down. You haven't had 3 good nights of sleep. Mm-hmm. Next thing you know, you're on a ventilator. And a lot of people don't come off of ventilators. It's very rare that you're on a ventilator and you come out A-okay.
What is the process when when someone has to get on a ventilator? Like, what is that?
So coming from an ER point of view, we do, I don't know, you could give your point of view on the telemetry unit, but I did ER nursing for quite a while before I became a nurse practitioner. And what we would do is we would start them on something like a nasal cannula. If they were like in 90%, low 90s. Yeah. So low 90s and, to the upper 80s. Then if they were like low 80s, then you start them on a high pressure, like a more open nasal cannula where it can give you more flow. Then you go to a mass where you're 6 liters to 10 liters. And then if that's not working for you, then they'll put you on maybe a CPAP or a BiPAP. But when you get to intubation period where they have to put you on a ventilator, it's because you can't breathe for yourself. So at this point, they are breathing for you. That means that your saturation is so low that they think that the risk of you dying from not being on the ventilator is greater than the risk of you dying from a machine pumping air into your lungs.
Oof.
But the crazy thing about it is if you have COVID, you have to be in a negative pressure room. So if there's not a negative pressure room and you are, like if you're on regular oxygen or if you need an inhaler, you can be in a regular room. But if you need to be on a BiPAP or a CPAP or on a ventilator, you need to be in a negative pressure room. And so you don't have a lot of those naturally built into the hospital. Mm-hmm. And so it's like, what do you do when you have multiple patients who need this type of equipment? Because the aerosol in the air with this being possibly airborne, because what's so funny? The CDC never said that this wasn't an airborne disease.
Yeah, and I haven't heard that. Yeah, exactly.
So they had changed it because I guess China had a few cases where they thought it was airborne transmit.
Okay.
And so the CDC only changed it to droplet into contact because we were running low on PPE. If you read the reasoning for CDC on why we became droplet in PPE, it was like due to low, or why we became droplet in contact precautions. It was like due to the low PPE, this is the route that we're going to take. So airborne was never technically ruled out. So it's like if you have a patient who's this far along and needs this much assistance with this machinery, you know what I mean, and you don't have the rooms to house them, then you're prolonging giving them these machines, or you're constantly rotating. We did a lot of rotating patients on the floor. Like once we found out you were negative or whatever, you went from one wing to the other wing. You went from one room to another room. It was just like constant movement. So now you got patients wondering like what's going on. Mm-hmm. Patients coming in who are having a hard time breathing if they may have COPD, and it's like, I have a breathing problem naturally, but is this COVID? I have COVID. Am I going to die? I think that was the hardest question I got from patients who came in and they were asking, am I going to die from this? Because I heard it's just so bad. And it's like, you don't know the answer to that. Like, I can't, the fact that you're in here now, we're doing the best that we can do for you. We're taking all the precautions to make it's easier for you. But it's just like someone to ask you that and you not know the answer to that. Like I had one patient, I told her, I was like, I'm here. I'm doing the best I can do for you for, tonight till you're here to the morning. We're doing this level of treatment and precautions for you. I went gone for 3 days. I came back, she passed away. And I felt so bad. Or, there's a no visitor policy in our hospital since the beginning of March. It's supposed to expire on April 30th, but technically we've extended that. But you have people whose family members are sick and dying, and they wanted, people drove from out of state to come see their family members, and we're like, nope, can't come in. The CEO of our hospital said, you're not allowed into the hospital. Like, I'm sorry. And so like you have family outside the hospital doors, like FaceTiming our nurses, so they can at least see their family member to at least say goodbye, I love you, or something. You know what I mean? And it's just like, and you're like at the door, no, you can't come in. And it's like, it's beyond your control. Like, what do you do? I had to call one guy about 2:00 in the morning. And I was like, I'm so sorry, but your dad passed away, and he was just like, I just wish I could have been able to see his face and tell him I loved him goodbye. And just for me, I just felt like, it was just, it makes you want to go home and just hold your family that much tighter. Because it was just like, and that's for me in the Bay Area. I can imagine how that was in New York, where you have multiple people dying, thousands of people dying a day. Like that's crazy. And just to, to be like, I wish I could have said bye. I wish I could have, can you FaceTime so I can see them? Or saying they're like literally feet away from their loved ones and can't come in. Like that heart wrenching feeling, that I think that was the hardest part for me during COVID, was just having to be like that middle person for them and their loved ones.
But at this point, most hospitals aren't allowing visitors, even if you're not sick. So I know that because I'm pregnant currently, A lot of my OB visits I have to do by myself.
I was like, is he going to allow you into your appointments? No, right?
Yeah, no. So they're not allowing my husband into the appointments to see how the baby's doing. And then even some of my friends have delivered on labor and delivery units by themselves without their husbands. So their husbands don't even get to see their babies until they're brought home, which could be 3 days to a week later, depending upon whether they did a natural delivery or C-section.
And how does that, I mean, and that, I can only imagine how that impacts when it comes down to skin to skin and that bonding experience, those first couple of hours when babies are being delivered. It's a whole new world. How I'm trying to get the right question, because Darniesha, that took me, how did the hospital or your bosses mentally prepare you for this journey?
They don't. They just send out an email and they said, this is it now.
A daily flash mail. You come into work and there's a flyer in the elevator saying we have a no-zero, patient policy. I mean, it does say, in case of intimate death, or if a patient's under 17, or if they, if they're a minor and need something that you might, or your laboring mother, you might be able to have a guest or two. But when it came to the bottom line, no, there was no one. There was no one. And like I said, you come to work with an email or a flyer in the elevator and saying this is what's happening now. So there's not.
Keep going.
Yeah, so like in our facility, I work in a clinic. I don't work in the hospital setting any longer. But when we first started to hear about this, at first we weren't letting in people like with their family members. Mm-hmm. So let's say per se you have a patient who speaks with sign language. We couldn't have their partner who would normally translate for them. Mm-hmm. We'd have to do it through a blue phone or through a telemonitor to where somebody could, translate for them, or, in languages that we don't speak, like Cantonese and things that aren't readily available, Mandarin, things like that. I mean, I think every facility goes Spanish, English, but when it gets to certain specific languages that we normally don't speak out here,
there's a waiting time on those now.
Yeah. You have to wait for about 30 minutes. So we turn it on, way in advance when we know that the patient's coming. But then they couldn't have their family members there. And that's confusing, especially for like the older population.
Yeah.
When they're like, I want my son to be here. I had in particular, in order to not cross over into the HIPAA zone, I had a patient who had cancer. And I had to let him know the news without family there. So that kind of sucks in a sense of saying, this is our treatment plan. This is what we're going to do. This is where we're going to send you. And him not even being able to process any of that information because he just heard, I have cancer.
Right.
He stopped thinking after that point.
Right. And so having to write down all this information because his wife was in the car. So that in general, it's just kind of like, wow, in special instances like this, you would want family here. Mm-hmm. Nobody wants to get that information by themselves. Or what if he's so scared to tell his wife, he doesn't even let her know? What if he decides, you know what? No, I'm going to keep this information. I'd rather die without her knowing that I'm this sick, mm-hmm. And so, I mean, we had several instances where we had to decide, okay, I understand that you're a mother of 2 and you have a younger infant, but you can only accompany your one kid who's here. So you have to find a source of someone to watch this other kid because you can't bring your 2 kids in. So let's say I have a 4-year-old who I'm having a well child check and immunizations. And then I have a 1-year-old. Mm-hmm. I'd have to have somebody watch that 1-year-old who's not getting a visit in order to take my 4-year-old there because I can only accompany this kid by myself. So, I mean, but then these things were happening so rapidly, we couldn't even keep up. And then it got to a point where we were testing all the patients for their temperature before they even came in. And then we had a little questionnaire, like, are you having these symptoms? Before they even came in, that determined what side of the facility they went on. Are you sick and do you need to be in an isolation room? Or are you okay and you just need whatever normal facility, I can't even think of the word right now, pregnancy brain, whatever the facility offers, whether that's immunizations or a well child check or a pap smear, whatever you came in for. And then we got to the point where we were testing the employees. And I'm like, so if I have a fever, are you going to send me home and then you're going to cancel all my patients? Or
yeah, we get stickers nightly or daily based on, you walk in the door and you're handed a face mask and a sticker for the day.
So what does the sticker indicate?
That you had your temperature checked.
Oh, okay. So a little, hey, I'm good, or hey, no, it's not happening.
How accurate is it? I mean, you're literally walking from outside, which I come in at night. So you're literally walking from outside inside the building. So it's cold into a warm building. And we're doing, a temperature check, or we're doing one on your back of your neck. How accurate is that at that moment? You know what I mean? So it's like, my temperature one time said I was 94 degrees. I said 94 degrees. Y'all heard about me having a fever or maybe hypothermia.
I remember when we first started doing testing, they have the ones that go on the ear, they have the surface ones, and they have the tongue ones. And we were utilizing all of them. So then that way we can make sure that the patients could come in the building. And we weren't just having like an influx of people just waiting outside. And then they wanted to take it orally with me. I said, absolutely not. You are not sticking. I don't care if you have a plastic cover. You're not sticking something in my mouth that's gone into 30 other patients'
No,
mouths.
thank you. No, thank you.
You could put 50 plastic tubes on top of it. I'm still not sticking that thing in my mouth. But then when you do surface temperatures, like Darniesha said, you could be coming in from a cold environment, and it's how accurate is that?
If you had a wish list for this, how the government did it, how our state did it, how your hospital did it, both of y'all have kids. Like, what is your wish list going forward, or just during? I guess there's a lot of layers to what we've been experiencing since March 13th, March 11th.
I think that being one of the greatest nations on this planet, we should have been more prepared. We have some of the most brilliant scientists in the world who work here. And as soon as we heard about this hitting Wuhan, China, knowing how much business trade we do with this country and how many people transfer back and forth from this country, whether it's for schooling or business or just leisure or any reason, we should have been on top of it. Like, this is happening in Wuhan and this is how many people are dying from it. But we waited for it to go from Wuhan to like Sweden and Italy and all these other places. And then we said, oh, that might be serious. Let's get a hold of that.
Like an afterthought.
Yeah. Yeah, we were an afterthought. And, I don't know the indication behind the waiting. I don't know if it's because, we're scared to do this whole government shutdown thing again. Let's just see how it pans out. Or, let's not let the public know about it until a bunch of people start dying. If they don't start dying, then we don't have to let them know. And, we could just say it's the flu. But if they do start dying, then and then what media do you trust? Because coming from certain networks, I'm not going to name any names, but coming from certain networks, it was laissez-faire to the point where it was like, this is nothing. And then certain media was like, you're all going to die.
Yeah.
Even myself being an educated professional, it was hard for me to discern what was really happening. Especially in my area where, like I said, we're not in close proximity. If you go into a grocery store on a normal day, you might see 25 people. We're not on top of each other like that.
Yeah.
But then you hear about areas like Georgia and New York and LA, and it's like, whoa, this thing is a big deal. But then, it's hard to figure out what to believe, because if you're like, I don't necessarily know anybody who's been affected. I don't know anybody who's died from the corona. So then in my perspective, I'm like, is it that serious? But then if you've had somebody who's in LA and you're like, 3 of my friends have died from corona, that's a different perspective, if that makes any sense.
That does.
So you have so many people in America who have all these different perspectives, to the point where you have people rioting saying, you should open things up because it's not that damn serious.
Oh, that's happening right now.
and then you have people who are like, no, please don't open up nothing ever until next year sometime because we're all dying. Everybody, you go die. It just depends on where you are and how serious things are going to get. But then, they have this prediction that it's going to go away like the flu with the weather. But it's pretty damn hot out here, and we're still hearing about numbers.
Yeah. And that was the interesting part, because you can read different articles. They're like, oh, well, this particular virus doesn't like the heat, but then it's okay. Well, what happens in the fall? And in my mind, I'm already in fall, and I'm thinking, are we going to get that quote unquote second wave? And just seeing how different universities are preparing for that. I mean, Cal State Fullerton was the first university to say, we're going to go online fall 2021. And I haven't heard any other universities following suit. And it's May, and they called that 2-3 weeks ago. So what else is continuing, from festivals to just our normal, routine? How much is that going to be done virtually? And then how much is that going to be able to be done in person? When it comes down to just I would say the overall best advice that you can give to people currently, what is that advice right now from your perspectives?
What's helped me, because I said, like, with work, especially in the beginning, I got a real sense of anxiety, just kind of not knowing what I'm walking into. And then you come home and you take your kids to school on a Friday. You get a letter saying their school's canceled for the next 2 weeks, plus the spring break, so they're out of school for a month. And it's like, wait, what happened? And so all of a sudden you become a homeschool teacher. And, I'm homeschooling a 5th grader who's not going to have his graduation this year. I'm homeschooling a kindergarten and preschooler. I'm homeschooling my godsons who have autism and are in 8th grade who aren't having graduation. They have to go to high school next year. Yeah. And so I have my mom who is immune compromised, and she's being the neighborhood savior. And so whatever I'm giving her to stock up at home, she's making care packages for the neighborhood. And I'm like, lady, I don't want to go to the store that often. I need you to get it together.
I need you to sit down somewhere, okay?
I need you to sit down somewhere. But, for me, meditation and just a level of gratitude has just kind of gave me a peace of mind. Mm-hmm. I have family and friends who, said, I haven't been to work since March. You know what I mean? Some jobs are supplementing, some jobs laying you off completely. Yeah. And for me, I'm just grateful I have a job to go to. I'm still able to go to work and provide for my family. But then you have nurses who got hired in this big surge of hiring, and they're being let go because it's like, we thought this was going to happen, but this didn't quite happen. And so it's like, I'm grateful for that. I'm just grateful for like the health and, just peace of mind. But for meditation is something I picked up on recently, and just giving affirmation and words of gratitude just to kind of center myself. I've been giving myself moments in my car before I get out to kind of just like woosah, what I mean? Just not to let it become all overbearing. Because when I want to come in my door at home, my house is a peace of mind for me. So I just want to keep my house being my peace of mind. And then my husband's is my best friend, most days. And so, having him as a support to be able to talk to, and, just kind of having someone to listen to, I think that always, is a grateful thing. Just, I thank God for Zoom, and, I'm learning about House Party now. So I can't see my friends or go visit them, but I can, see you guys online. And so it's not the same thing, but it's something. Because to feel like you're stuck in your house and your 4 walls and you can't do anything or go anywhere, you get a level of craziness. Yeah. And so just little outlets here and there have definitely gave me a peace of mind.
That's awesome. Nisi, what about you?
I say, with everything that you're learning, take it with a grain of salt. And really be versatile with the information you get. Don't go through one specific media. Don't go through one specific station of information about what's going on. I would say, if you want to really know what's going on, with this, you're going to not only have to search media outlets from America, but from other countries and see how they're doing, in order to kind of give yourself a grasp of what may happen. I feel like a lot of information we're not given. And I don't know if it's to decrease fear or if it's to increase our stocks. And stocks are crazy right now. I don't know if you guys have stocks, but you're expecting everything to crash, and then you have this trillionaire who's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna throw money in there," and then you're betting on the wrong things. So it sucks. But I would just say take everything in with a grain of salt, so then that way you don't get so overwhelmed. I think that that's what is happening with a lot of people. They're thinking everything's going to be shut down forever and all these businesses are going to be closed. And it comes to a point where this has to come to an end. Everything doesn't last always, but it's about how we do this. How do we reopen? Will you be the first batch of people to go out there to test the waters per se?
Those early adopters. Yeah.
Will you be the first batch to take a vaccination? Will you be the first batch of people to go back to work as normal, to go back to school as normal? When you have certain governors and certain mayors that don't agree upon, total government under the presidency, then they're kind of doing their own thing. Like, are you more at risk? So I would say educating yourself to the best possible means by listening to everything that you can consume. And other than that, find a hobby. Now's the time to kind of find yourself. I think that a lot of people find comfort in, I hate social media that it does this, but comfort in what can I show everybody else that I have? What can I show everybody else that I can do? And now we have a point to where you have millionaires who can't splurge on vacations and can't splurge on private jets, and certain things aren't open and available. Finding out who you are beyond spending money.
Ooh, that's good.
Who am I? That's really hard for me as a mom. I figure a lot of women in general, once you get married and you have kids, you're not yourself anymore. You're a wife and a mom.
Hats. Yeah.
You're a wife and a mom. I'm not Treniese anymore. I'm Olivia's mother and I'm Rashad's wife. And sometimes I forget, like, I like art. I like reading. I like doing this for me. And a lot of times you don't have time for those sort of things. Everybody else in the house gets to enjoy who they are, but when do you get to enjoy who you are? So I would generally say finding something that you like to do in order to give yourself peace. Yeah. Whether that being art, poetry, reading, sitting in front of Netflix all day. I don't know, whatever makes you happy. Even just going outside and taking some deep breaths in, not necessarily around people, but just in your background or on your porch and in your backyard if you have one. On your balcony, just open your window. I don't know. Do what you got to do, but get some fresh air. Don't breathe in house air all day.
Yeah, that's good. That's really
I agree with you. I think it slowed it down, Treniese. I think we were always at a fast pace, and I think this just gave us a moment to just like reset. You know what I mean? Like, when's the last time you sat with your significant other and just talked? My husband told me that, he had a coworker who said he didn't know his wife's favorite color was green the other day because they never sat in the same room just to sit and just have casual conversation. Or even like you said, my whole neighborhood, someone's doing some yard work down the street. Someone's working on the windows. We're working on our backyard. I just axed my kitchen. My husband's mad at me for it. But I mean, it's like you find little projects, but that quality time you don't get back. That's something that money can't buy you. And I think this just forced us to just sit down and reset and just take a perspective outside of our own little bubble and just like have a sense of gratitude for the little things that we do have. You know what I mean? Like that money can't buy you.
Well, we went from how can I please everybody else who can see me to how can I please myself? And when you do that, you kind of go, well, what makes me happy? Yeah. And that I think that's why we're seeing a splurge of depression. That's why we're seeing a splurge of home domesticated violence. It's like, things weren't really happy here. I was just kind of sugarcoating all of this with Coach purses and Gucci slides and, whatever else brand that I can show people on social media, like, look at what I have. And doesn't this look so nice? And don't you wish that you could have it too? To being like, are you internally happy? You know? And I think that that's a great deal for people to find out within themselves. And I think that over time, you will see people who are less consumed in media. Even if you go on Facebook now, you'll see the same post that you seen this morning at like 10 a.m. Why? Because people don't have shit to post about. Stuff. They don't have nothing to post about. When they couldn't go shopping, they couldn't go on their vacation, they couldn't, and instead of saying, hey, this is me and my kid that I love so much, it's like, I really don't like the things around me.
That's heavy.
But now's the time if you don't like to make some change though. Like now's the time to be like, okay, so let me rediscover myself.
Right.
And who am I truly? Like you said, like what do I like? What brings me joy and peace? I think those are great questions to evaluate during this time and just like find the answer. And it's okay if you don't know it right now, but just the journey of seeking the answer. I think this is a journey for all of us, and just a matter of what path you decide to take.
Yeah. No. I really like seeing who can't be on beat with all these TikToks. I think that amuses me the most. I don't know if TikTok has a lag or if we have tons of people who can't be on beat.
Girl, they got the kids doing TikTok for homework assignments now. I'm like, look, I don't have TikTok, but I got it now. But just trying to incorporate, just that stuff. Trying to incorporate technology with everyday life. Because even this distance learning stuff, teaching school that not in class, I give a new hat to teachers. Like I love and appreciate y'all on a whole new level. Because I like my kids, and I like that we cool. I like being your friend. I like being your bonus mom. I love it. Yeah. However, I like when you go to school from 8 to 5. Or 8 to 4. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Because for me, I think that my kid is reaching a different, because she's going from never going to school to this year's September, she's supposed to be going to kindergarten. And dependent upon whether we reopen the state or not, she's going to have to go to school. Now, I work in the medical industry. My husband works in the medical industry. Yeah. So for me, it's about deciding if we should hold her back a year, because we won't be able to do this whole school thing with her adequately. Will she be able to go on to first grade from what we are able to teach her when we're both off work? Or, if we do have a day off work to do these things with her?
Wow. I didn't even think about that.
And I mean, for me, I don't know necessarily how school goes. Like some other parents have gone through first grade, second grade, fifth grade. They know what the homework looks like. They know what the academia is consistent of. This will be a whole new thing for me. So I'm actually thinking about holding my daughter back a year if they keep the schools closed.
Go ahead, Jessica.
No, are there talks about that, especially for, I know some kids go to pre-K now and then go to kindergarten. Like, what is the school district telling you?
Right. Well, Olivia's in preschool now, so it's not like she's not learning.
Right.
But kindergarten is the first integrated school level where you go somewhere else to learn. That's supposed to be free and public.
Yeah.
So I was looking forward to that free. But I'd much rather pay somebody for continuation of preschool, and somewhere where I could keep her for daycare so I can work and my husband can work, rather than trying to figure out how to do her first year of school. Yeah. And I mean, I do telehealth, so I'm home. but you guys know Olivia. She actually told one of my patients, "My mommy's gonna help you. What's wrong with you?" And I can't have that in the background while I'm like, go play somewhere. So I mean, I actually do put her in daycare for when I work, because it's not like I'm just sitting on the couch all day.
Yeah.
Working from home is rough.
I think you get more work when you work from home than when you at the actual facility. Like, I feel like when you at work, I know people say, like, I got more assignments or busy work to do when I'm at home versus when I'm in the hospital.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what class is like for kids right now. You ask, the transition of going from, here you are in your spring semester and school is about to be out. You got a couple more months left and then you're done. But I feel like in the beginning, he got packets that were like remedial work, like stuff he was doing, like, 4th, 5th grade, not just the 5th grade, but like 4th, 5th grade stuff. And then it was the transition to online, and he has like math for an hour, and then he has independent reading for 30 minutes, and then like writing for 30 minutes, and like another writing assignment. And I was just like, so what are we really learning right here? You know what I mean? Like, and so I feel like there's going to be a huge learning gap with a lot of these kids come fall semester. And I believe there was talks about holding, like, redoing spring semester. And of course, you tell your high school seniors that, and they're just like, what the hell? I'm not holding back, another semester. Or, you got kids who are supposed to be in middle school next year. Do you hold them back a whole, semester? Or I heard that, school might start early. I think that's what the public health of California was saying, that school might just start early in July to play catch up for the first month and a half, and then real schooling for your actual grade will start after that. Because then you got to gauge where all these different kids are before you start a whole nother semester, because they probably are not all going to be on the same level.
Yeah. And then like what type of quote unquote standardized testing would they come out with to say like, oh, you're on track or you're not on track? And I think I was talking to my mom, and she was saying that if high school seniors before the shutdown were on track to graduate, then they were good to go. If it was the other seniors, and I think they would definitely have some more work to do, because, you weren't on track prior to before your school shut down. So what can you do to...
So we're going to give you a passing grade to keep going.
Exactly. So what does that look like? And then I just think of the teachers and the preparation for teachers. Have the teachers for your kids reached out? Like, what does that look like with their interactions?
We're in constant communication, actually.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Like I said, getting online was hard initially, because it was just like, this isn't logging on, this isn't working. But they're in the technical classroom, and I'm able to text them and say, hey, we can't log into this, or we're having issues with this. They do one-on-one check-ins with him. Okay. So he has a good 10, 15 minutes of just him and his teacher speaking, and then they have small group discussions for math and for their ELA class. So I think the teachers are giving a lot of support for the best of their ability. And so I just, like I said, it's a whole new realm for them. It's a whole new realm for parents. And so I think we're all just trying to navigate day by day, just figuring this thing out. It's just a matter of like, when this semester is over, what does next semester look like, and how do we gauge all these kids together?
Yeah, that's a good call.
I feel really bad for mainly the seniors, because I mean, any other grade you can be like, whatever, redo that semester. And not even just that, but if you're used to going to brick and mortar school every single day, and then let's say I plan to go to Cal State Fullerton. Whoop, whoop, alumni. But, I plan to go to Cal State Fullerton. I plan to live in the dorms, and I plan to do this and that and the other. Yeah. And now Cal State Fullerton is saying their whole first semester is going to be online in order to have to reduce the issues of people saying, oh, is it online? Oh, is it brick and mortar? What are we doing? So those seniors going from brick and mortar for 12 years to maybe possibly starting online classes for college, and trying to figure out how they're going to do that, especially with parents who aren't educated, or parents who can't be home because they work, like myself and Darniesha, we're working moms, we're not at home, Betty housemakers all day. I mean, even if I were, would I have the means to be able to sit down with this teenager and tell them how to get through their first semester of college?
Ooh,
So
our first semester
I
of
feel
college
for them.
was rough.
Yeah. And obviously we're not dumb people because we got into college, but I remember my freshman year being like, what did I get myself into?
Yeah.
Why did I take 5 classes?
Yeah. No, that's when you look back at that first semester, and especially all the impressions that you have on you, right? Like you're free from your mama and your daddy, and now you're out, but you broke, but you still want to do stuff. And then it's
just I had a job the second day of school. I
definitely transferred. I definitely had that job. I think I had 2 jobs. I think all of us had like multiple jobs in college because we weren't playing that.
Yeah, I worked for Carl's Jr. and I worked with Jeanette Hyder.
Oh yes, EOP, shout out.
Victoria's Secret.
We were out there grinding. I was at Carl's Jr. so I could get my meal plan. And
you hooked it up with a Western bacon.
He was a manager.
Burger, okay,
that little $6 burger was being charged for the burger meal.
He had us on point. Lisa gave us cookies. I knew as soon as I got a class I could go to Carl's Jr. I was hooked up, okay? Yes, kept us fed, all right? But yeah, when you think about that first semester and that mental adjustment and you're not having that, especially if all these colleges go online, I don't know. I sometimes think that might be a little bit better because 18, 19-year-old kid trying to make decisions, is just, especially with this.
With about the mistakes we made on the way of trying to figure that out and trying to be an adult.
Right. Right.
It's like you graduate, here, go be an adult now. So, I mean, it's a give and take. I think with them doing online classes now, it might be more of a navigation or roadmap for what next semester is going to look like.
Yeah.
I think it'll be more structured come in. I think right now it's just feeling like a whirlwind and just everything all over the place. That hopefully by August when stuff gets here, it'll be a little bit more structured and not so confusing, so stressed out.
Well, I think that this whole incident shows people, if things go down, this is where the hell you should work. Because you have so many people who thought that they were really important and they're figuring out that they're really not as important as they thought they were. And, they call you an essential worker, per se, if you're still working at this time, but in the same token, when you're considered frontline, because I've been told a lot of the times, oh, you're at risk, but that's what you signed up for. You signed up to be at risk.
Like, how do you deal with that?
Yeah. And it was like, you can't get hazard pay because this is the job line you chose. And I'm just like,
you chose to do this. I didn't choose to work with minimal PPE and not know what we're dealing with. I didn't choose to go to work and every day find a different email about how we're supposed to be handling things. But what I did choose was to, take care of sick people, no matter what.
Yeah.
But what I'd really like to see is, because you guys think that I'm a frontline worker, I want frontline benefits. Who's paying off my student loans? That's what I want to figure out. Because if you guys can dump $1.7 trillion into the stock market, so then that way rich people can stay rich, what you can also do is drop $1.2 trillion to pay off all student loan debt in America. So then that way middle class people can buy houses. But no, they'd rather say, you know what, let's keep our rich friends rich. Let's keep that 2% at 2%. Instead of saying, how can we better as a society? Oh, we can get everybody into affordable housing. We can get everybody out of debt. Nah, we're not going to do that. What we're going to do is keep the rich people rich. And that's one thing that I've been having trouble understanding about America. We're supposed to be this great nation, this amazing nation, and we're the best. But we still don't have simple things figured out.
Level playing fields, right.
No, you're right about that. I think this is definitely an eye-opener when it comes to what's broken. And it took a pandemic for us to see that. When you're, I have several friends that are dealing with unemployment and they filed early March and still haven't seen it. Stimulus checks what is that? So our system, if it's, digital, whether, the processing piece of it, you jump over the border to Canada, they get their money, in less than 72 hours? And they're getting $2,000 on top of that. And they're still working from home because of the laws and stuff. So it's an eye opener to say, this is what's wrong. And if something hits, we are not prepared for it. We're not prepared. Yes, they put in different laws for, landlords can't evict you. But then, okay, well, is that the same protection for the landlord?
You still owe the back rent afterwards.
So exactly.
So you know what that reminds me of? Dave Chappelle's skit. I don't know if you guys remember his skit a while back where he said, America doesn't have it figured out, and Canada has this whole health system figured out, and and so forth. So what we're supplying to all Americans is fake Canadian IDs. I just thought that was brilliant. He's one of my favorite comedians because he's political, he's smart, he's brilliant. Anyhow, I just figure, with us calling this is the greatest nation on earth, for us to call it, ourselves the greatest nation on earth, we sure don't have a lot figured out. Yeah. Even with simple stuff, such as healthcare, you have people with no health. We went from Obamacare, you have to have care. Everybody has to have care, to people scared to go to the ER to be tested for the coronavirus, even though they're deathly sick because they don't have insurance.
Yeah. Yeah.
When you have a system where you have to pay for everything because everything's for profit, it goes downhill, and I'm one of those people. I think that, seeking help for health is a human right. It's not, I can pay for it, so I'm going to get myself checked out. Like, it shouldn't have to be like that. It's one of those things where I'm sick, I need help, no matter what pay grade you're on. And that's another thing that we don't have figured out with our healthcare system. And, I really wish that we could have a redo with this whole new election for 2020 and be like, nah, let's get some new candidates. You're really telling me that the two almost oldest gentlemen on the United States is the only two candidates for this election? Like, we can't do better than this?
Yeah.
We got to be able to do better than this, y'all.
It makes
and me, myself, I'm not a Republican or a Democrat. I find myself to be independent because I see certain things on both lines. I'm not really a rightist or a leftist. I see certain things and I'm like, yeah, everybody shouldn't get everything for free. So I'm not necessarily like a Democrat in the state of like, let's save all the lost puppies. But I'm also not a rightist in the way of like, F all of you guys, let them all die, everything for profit, so there's certain things that I agree with and there's certain things. So I consider myself to be independent, but you guys can't find nobody better than these two people. I'm not going to say no names, but y'all know who running. And we have so many educated people on this, like,
but look at our country. You think we're ready for this part of, this advancement into politics. And then here we go. We're back to old America where it's just like, no, we want an old white man to be our president. It's like, you think we have so much advancement happening and it's just like, you slap down and it's just like, or the fact like people like, they don't think they have their voice or their voice matters at this point. It's like, I tried this and nothing happened, so I'm not going to do it anymore. Like I tell people who voted and are just like, oh, nothing changed, so I'm not going to vote. I'm just like, but your vote matters. Like every little bit matters.
And this should be eye-opening for people to see that.
But you know what? There's nobody there to put on the ballot that anybody's super like, yes, this person is going to make a change.
not even for president. Let's just take that out. Look at how your city operates. Right. Look how your state operates. Like we've had so many different people come out of the woodworks and you listen to them on different interviews and where their mindset is like, how the hell did you get that position?
Yeah, like because the mayor of Nevada. How the hell did you get in your position?
Yeah.
You can't even make logical sense when you're speaking. Oh my good Lord. I
Las Vegas,
her whole
Las Vegas.
Conversation to pieces. I'm like, what is she we're willing to be a placebo, but the governor said no. Who voted for her?
And that's what a lot of people don't do. They don't look at that booklet that comes out. Cause they send us the booklet. They send us the booklet with the people's names and they're not Googling and researching. They're like, you know what? I like this person because they said I love puppies, or I like this person because they said this. Okay, cool. But what are the policies? What are the procedures? Like, what are the things that they're going after?
Or they go over
will
their
be good
parties
for you?
list, like their parties recommendations. So they never look because the parties.
One of the simplest things that I found really funny that was on our last ballot. I don't know if this is any other state, but this is California in general. That people, you know, they read this question on their voting system that talked about plastic bags and like, should you have to pay extra for reusable bags? And people didn't think that all grocery stores were going to have reusable bags after this. And they're like, why do I have to pay 10 cents a bag?
You voted.
And it's like that. It's very much like that, like where they can word something and you're like, yeah, that sounds good. If they have reusable bags, you should have to pay for those. But then when you realize every grocery store you go to has nothing but reusable bags, you're like, wait a minute, I have to pay $1 to get 10 bags every time I come here?
Yeah. We have to take initiative to be more educated when it comes to these people that we're voting for, because one thing I've noticed is that majority of the people that are in the Senate or just in various positions, they're there for years. So you have this fixed mindset for years at a time. And then when it comes to vote, they throw all this money and then they win the vote. And it's just this vicious cycle. Like, in order to disrupt something, you have to be very, very strategic of how that's going to be removed, eliminated. And oftentimes we just don't think about that. So I think this coming up election, we have to be on purpose with our vote. Because if the pandemic hasn't shown you how important it is to vote, I don't know what else can. I mean,
well, that's the thing too. When I talked about,
I don't know,
people having different perspectives.
Yeah.
You know, if you're in Ohio and you have 3 acres of land, then you're agreeing with certain people who are like, oh yeah, let's just let the government reopen and da 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 da. And then if you're in an area like New York where they're suffering tremendously, you're like, let's get out this person who is saying, let's open everything up.
Yeah.
You know, so I think that it's really a perspective thing. Number one, how you grew up. Number 2, what makes you feel safe. And then number 3, you know, your own personal beliefs on top of that, you know. So let's say, per se, my mom raised me Christian, right? And then I have that outside influence where, let's say, my husband or my boyfriend is Buddhist, you know. Do I find an in between of both of those? Do I become an atheist and say that I believe in everything? Or do I go with what my mom has taught me my whole life? Or do I go with what my boyfriend or husband says because I'm going to be married to them for the rest of my life? So I think that that's what a lot of people are dealing with, is like, where do I go? You know, how do I vote? Do I vote based on, because, you know, Mary Lou and everybody else in my family is saying, you know, you should vote on this.
Go on, Mary Lou. Okay, Mary Lou.
You know, or do I, you know, go on social media and I get this outside perspective and I'm like, yeah, you guys are right. This, you know, this doesn't sound right.
It's a combination of all of that. I mean, I think that's what life is in general, right? The whole nature versus nurture. Like, you get all of these little bits and pieces, what you have, you know, genetically, what you have micrally with your family, what you have macroly with, you know, the society you live in. You take a little bit of everything and you take that in yourself and you critically think about, you know,
which I think is a lost art.
Facets, you know, make up who I am and what I believe. And it's like, it's until you critically think about those things and those choices do you begin to open up your eyes and say, okay, well, maybe I agree with this, not so much this or this, and then kind of find the happy medium in between all of them. Because there's not going to be one person, one candidate, one policy that's going to line up with everything. You know what I mean? So it's like, how do you take the bits and pieces, you know, and make sure what you believe in, what you believe is important, what you believe is safe, you know, is represented.
Yeah.
But that's really hard when you have a cultist group, you know, that's constantly like, no matter what this person says, you know, somebody else has said worse. And no matter whatever this person does, the previous person has done worse. And if they said that, then they didn't mean that. And if they meant that, then it was sarcastic. And if it was sarcastic, you guys should know how to take a joke. And if they're joking during a pandemic, it's because they're trying to lighten the situation. And it's always an excuse for the negative. But if it were somebody else in office doing the same exact thing, let's say on the opposing side and the Democratic office, it'd be, he's doing a terrible job, you know? And so what I like to tell people who are rooting for somebody in the cultist type way of, I'm going to vote for this person no matter what they do, is if this person were a Democratic person or somebody else on the opposing side of what you believe in, would you still support him? Would you still say, yeah, everything he's doing is right? Or would you be like, this guy is off the chain? Ain't nobody injecting bleach, you know? So, and you know, I'm not a dumb person. I'm very well educated. I'm very well versed. And to go from like, well, this cleans on the surface in 1 minute. Can we figure out a way to inject that? That's suggesting that people should inject things. And then he said he was being sarcastic. And then it just got blown into
that literally. I just meant that figuratively. Right.
Yeah. But then you know, you have people who will support that no matter what, almost like an occultist type of view.
Wasn't there like an increase of calls for the poison control center of people?
Yeah, because they president told them to drink bleach.
you know when he suggested hydroxychloroquine, you know how many patients I had asking for this medication just in case they got it. Just in case. And I'm like, you don't even know what this medication does to your body. But the president said that it's helping in other countries. But you don't even have it. But I want to get it just in case. I'll pay for it out of pocket. You know, when you have somebody suggesting things medically who's never been in the medical field, you know, you have dangerous things happening.
Right.
Darniesha, what'd you say?
I think he's taking advice from his own counsel half the time. Like he speaks before they get a chance to speak in turn. So it's like they have to come back and rebuttal what he just said. But you're right, Treniese. I mean, you have.
But even the fact that he doesn't respect physicians on air. Like he's calling Dr. Fauci Tony. Like you have no title after you start calling me by my first name. You know what I mean? Like it's not like Dr. Fauci's a nurse or like he's just a research whatever. You know, he's a doctor who's been in the field for greater than almost 20 years is what they're saying. And he's like, oh, Tony over here said. And when you do that, you discredit this man to a bunch of people who have never been educated. And they're like, what the CDC is saying is crap. And what the WHO is saying is crap. And this is all hoax. And, you know, you have people on different sides of the fence. And I think that's what makes this virus the scariest is that you have people who aren't taking it seriously at all. And, you know, who are still attending church and masses. And then finding out later they're dying.
And the whole family got it afterwards. Because you don't think it's that serious. And yes, I'm a woman of faith. I believe in God. I'm a Christian. But you know what I mean? At the same time, I got a level of common sense. And I know common sense isn't common nowadays. But I would never. I mean, even churches said they can possibly get fined if they congregate and people in their congregation get the disease. They'll lose their nonprofit. I forgot what it's called, but they'll lose that. But you know, you have to realize that you're going into a building full of people, and we're supposed to have isolation. Where do you have like 6 feet barrier within a church, or you know, if we got to shut down, you know, the sporting events and concerts. I was supposed to be in St. Louis on vacation to go see a Millennium Tour. And baby, I was sad that my flight got canceled and then the concert got canceled. But you know what I mean? You got to take it to, I don't know. It's like either you have the far who was like, it's the apocalypse. I need to go buy a gun and protect myself.
Yeah.
People were like, was that Big Five was sold out of guns, had a 2-week waiting list for their guns. People were like trying to buy guns. There was a line for the gun store. Or you have folks on the other hand, just like, ain't nothing gonna happen to me. I'll just be fine. This is all blown out of proportion. And it's just like, and you're in the middle and you gotta like prepare for both sides of that. That's the scary part about it is like, I prepare for this side who's just like, I need to go buy a gun. I'm gonna shoot you kind of thing. This side was just like, ain't nothing wrong. I'm gonna do what I want to do. Can nobody tell me nothing kind of thing. And it's just like that middle lane. That's where the scary part comes in. You got to prepare for both sides.
Yeah, no, you're right. That it comes to a point where, you know, like both of you said, doing your research, making sure that you're taking the time for yourself, supporting your loved ones the best that you possibly can, and just hoping that this will, you know, be over soon. but strategically, you know, the things are put in place to keep us safe and keep us healthy. So I'm so excited that y'all were able to tune in with us. Again, any questions, feedback, comments, please email okayandthepodcast@gmail.com. I want to thank our guests, Darniesha and Treniese. Woo woo! This is my applause. Yay!
Go fully fam.
Fully fam, yes.
I know we were all over the place, but I think this virus is as well. So
I know. I was like, what's more health conversation? Because this show got detoured a couple times.
It's okay though. I mean, we were out here and just making sure we, you know, if one person listens or a million people listen, at least we have this time capsule and we're able to really just get our thoughts out and see where we're at in life. So until next time, y'all, stay tuned in and thank you so much for listening. Take care.